think.
Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Adela, Stephen. Sorry for this delay. We were a bit late today. Thank you for joining us. Before we start, I would like to remind you that there must be no discussion of prices, surcharges, fees, cost, particular customers, revenues, market share, or any other commercially sensitive topics. In particular, you are reminded that no market agreements have been or will be decided at meetings of KBF, whether they involve prices, amount, or arrears. Thank you very much. Sylvester and Emma. Well, Sylvester.
Hi.
Good afternoon. Yep.
Good afternoon. Yes, thanks, Corinne, and welcome to another session of DTR Sea Freight project updates. And thank you for joining this webinar, and thank you, KBF, for hosting it. So on the panel, we have MPI project team members, and I'm expecting someone from Customs to join us too. And we've got Emma, who's your rep on the project. So the purpose of today's slides is to go through a quick update on where we're at and talk through some of the key points and then open up for questions. Thank you, Daniel. Okay, so we are officially live with DTRC as of the 3rd of July. This officially kicked in. The mandate is in for phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 being movement of FAK containers from the port to your CCATF, and phase 2 being DVAN consignments moving from CCATF to CCATF. We're live with all that, so DTRs must be used for DTR active ports. Now, for phase 3, which is a port-to-port transshipment, we've got a transition phase which is kicked off in as of yesterday or Monday. And that will go on for another 3 months till all the ports and till all the shipping companies are DTR compliant. Thank you. I'll hand over to Daniel, and he'll give you a quick update on phase 1.
Thanks, Sylvester. So FAK movements from port to CCATF. So these are just 2 friendly reminders. So for DTRs to be successfully processed for these movements, MPI require the following attachments to be submitted. So again, this quarantine declaration, the bill of lading, and manifest. So in the next slide, I'll go into a bit more detail as to why we're talking about the attachments. And also for the QD, this needs to be entered on the lodgement correctly as per what is on the physical document itself. So for example, YYNNN, make sure the QD is also entered against each consignment. So we've had a few submissions come through with QDs entered for say 5 out of 6, with the 6th one missing the QDs. So just make sure it's all entered, please, going forward. And this is pretty much one of the reasons why. So we just ran a report recently with comparing docs attached versus no docs attached. And as you can see, from June to July, we've sort of had a massive increase with the no docs attached. So we're currently sitting in July at 13.50%. So yeah, if we can get those docs in, that would be a great help, and also will help with the submissions as well. And just verification from MPI's end. For this one in particular, it's around the UN low code. So movement of port requested, but goods location is not a UN low code. So just make sure that the UN low code is entered correctly if you're moving the container off the wharf. Failure to do so will result in the port holds not coming off if the information is lodged incorrectly. And lastly, just a quick update on the pilot partner status and the status of submissions. I think last time we had the webinar, we were sitting at about 84 to 86%. Now we've reached the 90 mark and sitting at 92.2% of the FAK volume on DTR as of 3rd July 2023. Now I'll pass on to Carlos.
Oh yeah, thanks, Ian. Hey, so just a thing around LCL consignment. So this is your phase 2 move. So this is the individual LCL consignment, which has been debanned from an FAK container. And it's going to be moving from one CCATF to another CCATF. So we came across an issue that was raised where for some CCATFs that are not approved by MPI to accept C containers as a line type, you might end up getting this error coming back saying TF/CF specified as in the transit destination of the DTR movement must be approved for C containers. So obviously we're not sending a whole C container there, we're just sending a LCL consignment there. But this is one of the validation errors in TSW. So currently we are working on a solution for this. So it might take a couple of weeks just to get that all finalized and bundled away and implemented. So if you do get this error, then for an LCL movement, then it's fine to continue to just use your customs collector's permit for that movement, just like you would have done pre the DTR process. So this is just for the LCL movements between CCA TFs. Thank you.
Sorry, I don't know, Emma, if you want to talk about cargo-wise anything like that. I think one of the questions we're getting quite a bit is people don't know how to use DTRs for LCL movements.
Yeah, so I am still in the process because CargoWise have not assisted or given any cheat sheets. We are kindly trying to put them together. We should have that done today. But in a nutshell, if you are or have been involved with the FAK portion, the only difference is it's exactly the same as the LCL, and the only difference is that for LCL, obviously you don't need to put in the container declaration details, so whether the containers clean and the packaging side of things, and also you don't need to add in attachments for LCL, but essentially it's the same process as doing a air freight DTR, and also the same process as doing a FAK DTR. You put in your details. You can do it from the console screen if you wish, or you can just do it. Personally, I prefer to just go in to the ICR CRE module and just create it from scratch. It does help if you've got two screens, because then you can put your shipment that you're relating it back to on one screen and just duplicate that information across. But yeah, if there's any specifics, then please reach out to the DTR team. They will flick it through to me. I have had quite a few people questioning the LCL side. I think that's possibly because they haven't been involved with how to do it until now. Cool, thank you.
Thanks, Emma.
So just one more thing on the LCL movements is just as Emma said, for these QD doesn't need to be entered and things like that. But just always pay attention to the location of goods as well. It's not going to be the port like when you move the container. So that also has to change to where the actual goods are currently located and have been debanned before moving on to the transit destination.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And also, if you're doing it multiple things, so if you've got your container, so you've moved your FAK back for unpack, and then you're moving something under bond as a line, whether it's going via a truck or whether it's going into a new container to be moved via sea freight, you need to do a DTR unless it's clear cargo. Ultimately, it would be easier for everybody if it's clear cargo, but if that can't happen, then you need to do a DTR for every step of the way.
Cool. So on collector's permits, as we have sent in our comms, the collector's permits will be phased out. So starting from 3rd July, there will be a phase-out process. The intention is that once all the ports become DTR active, the use of collectors permits will no longer be allowed. Now, there may be instances where, for some reason or the other, you cannot submit a DTR, whether it's phase 1 or it's phase 2 mostly. In that case, we would allow, just like the error that Carlos pointed out earlier, there could be other issues. So till this period of time, till the 1st of September, you will be allowed to use your collector's permit. However, what we would like everyone to do is jump on boards as soon as possible, start using DTRs so that you're not caught out by the end date by which this will apply. And then there will be no turning back from that point. Thanks, Carlos. You want to just talk us through that FCL process, please?
Oh, yes. So just a little bit of an update to the SCL process. Okay, so you might have seen this in the last webinar. It is on the customs website now. So this is around when to submit a DTR for an FCL, and there's a few different scenarios. So if we just start off at scenario 1, so this is all when a import declaration or like a full import declaration has been submitted, where there's no holds for customs or MPI. MPI will issue a simplified BACC, so you don't need to do a DTR request. That's fine. All responses will go back to the ports, and those holds will be removed from your container or cargo. In scenario 2, again, import declaration has been submitted. There is a customs hold in this one, but no hold for MPI. So for MPI, a simplified BACC is issued. So then you don't need to do a DTR request. Now, dependent on why the goods are held by customs, there'll be 2 different methods of why of how that customs hold will be removed and the container will be allowed to move. So if it's held for exam, then the NCCS planners will authorize movement. If it's held for any other reasons, then it will be submitting a NCCS 202 form to request movement to a CCATF. So we move to the next scenario. So for scenario 3, again, import entry has been submitted. This time there's a customs hold and also an MPI hold. So you don't need to submit a DTR. For MPI, you're going to be awaiting the import entry process to be processed by MPI and BACC issued. So there's no change to current process there. And again, the same details for customs if it's held for an exam or held for any other reason. There is a slight change to what was previously sent out the previous week around the submission of the 202 form. So just cast your eyes over those customs hold reasons because they have slightly been updated. Again, scenario 4 is the last one where imported entry has still been submitted. There's no customs hold, but there is an MPI hold. You don't need to submit a DTR. For this one, what you're going to be doing is waiting, just like normal, waiting for the MPI BACC to be issued for that FCL container. The customs hold will have already been removed because from the port because there's no customs hold there. Thanks. And so for scenario 5 is around when import declaration just cannot be submitted for one reason or the other. So in this scenario, this is for FCL container where the import entry cannot be submitted. So in this scenario, you would submit a DTR. Customs will approve that movement. For MPI, you'll get an MPI response back for a DTR declining that movement. There'll still be a hold at the MPI hold at the port. So then you'd have to submit a primary industries import declaration or IPI lodgement. MPI will then process that and issue a BACC, removing the hold from the port and giving a direction to the facility. So this is kind of like an exception scenario, which is just like current state. So MPI is not does not expect any increases in IPI usage due to the DTR functionally being available. Brokers use the same rationale for lodging the IPI pre and post the DTR process being being established. So this process is really for those exceptional circumstances when a full import declaration for an FCL just cannot be submitted for a particular reason. The expectation from both agencies is that for all FCL containers moving off port, moving inland to a transitional facility or CCA's transitional facility, that a full import declaration will still be submitted. And just there's some links here again that you might be familiar with. So this is the to the DTRC information page and the DTRC FAQs, both hosted on the customs websites. I recommend that if you go and look at these, it has quite a bit of information around, and fact sheets around the process for FCL movements, for LCL movements, for the phase 1 FAK movements, and updates on what ports are active and things like that. These are being updated all the time, including the FAKs are constantly being updated once we have more questions collated from everyone involved, all our stakeholders that are relevant to everyone. So then we update those as well. So if you have already kind of checked out those pages, please keep on going back to them and rechecking, because more information will be added as we're going through this process.
Thanks, Carlos. Thanks, team. All right. Any questions from anyone? No, doesn't look like it. All right, I will close this meeting. Thank you all for joining. Thanks to all who are on the panel. And we've got a weekly setup of these webinars from now until the end of July. So we'll see you next week. In the meantime, reach out to dtr.mpi@mpi.gov.nz if you have any questions. I can see something come through. All right, there you go. For the LCL scenario where the DTR is rejected due to an ongoing error, do we need a BACC for the movement as well, or just a collector's permit?
Okay, so for that one, if you're getting an ongoing error message before you use your collector's permit or anything like that, then I'd say that your first step would be to reach out to the DTR inbox, that email, send through the details with the with your TSW reference number, or if you're getting a rejected message where you can't even submit and it's not giving you a lodgement number and stuff, just send through the details of the error to us, because we might be able to resolve it. It might be something quite simple that we can get back to you. So that would be the first step. If then it's still persistent and it's becoming urgent, then you could use a collector's permit, and a BACC wouldn't be necessarily necessary for that movement. It can just move under your collector's permit.
Cool. Thanks. There's another one from Adela. A container being moved under customs bond to a ATF. The NZCS 202 form. Who submits this and to whom?
I can answer. So if it's going to if it's a ATF only non-CCA, it should be a 201. So the 202s are from CCA to CCA, and the 201 form is CCA to non-CCA. So that would be a 201. That should come to service delivery as normal. Include where it's where it's going to. Sorry, what's it? The CCA that it's going to. For example, if it's the port email, and then that can be sent back and released.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark. Shipping lines, for the ones who are not yet DTR approved and they are transshipping from Tauranga to Napier, for example, how are the MPI holds being cleared? So those shipping companies that are not DTR approved, the ports have been given authorization to let them move under the current process. The rules are only applied in the port system based on a carrier. So the other ones will not be held. So they follow through current process, which does not have MPI holds applied to it or customs holds. They move it to a transship area, and from there they load it onto the transship vessel. That process hasn't stopped. Cool. I hope this has answered the questions. If there aren't any more questions, I'll close this call. Thanks for joining, and feel free to email us at that email address. And thank you to everyone on the panel. Have a good afternoon.